Welcome to Eventful Endeavors, secrets to crafting the perfect celebration. If you're planning an event and looking for useful tips from industry experts, you're in the right place. So get ready to take some notes and we'll dive right in. This is Eventful Endeavors.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Eventful Endeavors. Today we are back in Southern California. Today we're here with Erin, who is the creative force behind Embrace You, a wedding planning company located out here in SoCal. Erin, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So I like to kind of start off the same way every time, which is basically just tell us how you got into the wedding industry. Tell us your story.
Yeah, so I guess it all started with just the certain personality. I was planning for friends and family and myself long before I was even dipping my toes in the professional world of this. I had another career, so this is actually my second career. But just, the chances of the universe led me to a role as a venue manager at a beautiful venue in Southern California. That was really my first professional foray into it. And I worked with so many amazing couples and love, collaborating with the owners and really approaching it from like, wow, I wish I had this when I was getting married, or I was planning for my friends or my family. It was a beautiful opportunity, and I learned so much from that. And now I've taken a sidestep from working with the venue to going out on my own. And that gives me a little more freedom, and I get to be a little more creative with different venues, different people, different places. So that's where I'm at today. Yeah.
So where exactly are you located at? Because I know when we worked together, it was at that venue, and that was up in the mountains, kind of around near Big Bear, right? Like up in that area. So do you live up in the mountains, or where are you based out of?
I don't. I'm actually based in Laguna Hills.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, I work all around Orange County. I still work at that beautiful venue, by the way.
Sure.
Just different capacity. I love that venue, not gonna lie. But yeah.
So sweet. So you're mostly doing weddings kind of all over Southern California. Do you do any destination stuff, or you mostly try to stay local?
Right now in this phase of life, I am a mom of two boys. So as much as I love travel and love destination weddings, professionally right now, it makes more sense to me to stay local.
Sure. Gotta have the priorities in order. So talk to me about this, because I always like to ask people this is, if you had one piece of advice to give newly engaged couples, what's the number one piece of advice you'd give them out of the gate? Step one.
Yeah. It's to really start thinking deeply. A lot of people just want to dive right in, and they, get to their Pinterest board, and they look at all the details, and they kind of look at all the images that are always so beautiful. And I think that's a little misstep. And while it's so common, I think there's so much more value in taking the time to really thinking about what a successful wedding means to you, what your priorities are, and just really defining exactly what it is that you're trying to achieve. And in the long run, as you plan, if you have these priorities, it's going to help you with your budget. It's going to help you with just all the little decisions, like decision fatigue.
Sure.
If you know your priorities, it's going to make everything so much easier. So I always say start with that. As a side note, I know you'll get into this later. On my website, I do have a free worksheet that is all about, it's called Casting Your Wedding Vision, and it kind of walks couples through that process if people are interested.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, that's a good resource to have, because I think, especially nowadays with Instagram and TikTok and all these, social media things, that you can see what everybody in the entire world is doing at their wedding. So people, I think, tend to get kind of overwhelmed by it, right? Because they see all these ideas, they want it all. So, does your sheet kind of help people hone it in? Like pick what's important to you and go from there?
Yes. Yeah, it really does. And I to me, the most successful, the most memorable weddings that I've worked at, it really reflects the unique couple. So like as
Right.
to your point, with all of the images, like social media and everything coming through, it's so easy to like grab from everybody else's vision that you kind of lose sight of what it is that really like you're trying to celebrate about your unique relationship. So yes,
Yeah.
that form does start that. Cat
I
in the
love it.
background.
Is there a cat behind you?
Cat behind me. Yeah.
I love it. I saw the tail and I was like, oh, that's okay. We get lots of pets in this podcast. We'll probably leave it in. They make appearances all the time. It's fine.
That's good.
Um, so let's talk about the big one then, because budget is a big thing. And I think, when I got married, 2 years ago, started planning 4 years ago, that was a big thing where we said, all right, this is what we want. This is our budget. Soon found out that it was completely unrealistic. So, what's your kind of piece of advice in terms of saying, this is what I want, but this is our budget? So how do we compromise on these things and find a realistic number? Especially for people who don't work in the wedding industry and don't know how much things cost.
Yeah, so it's a great question, and I have a couple of thoughts about it.
Go for it.
First of all, to really begin crafting any sort of budget, you are going to have to put some research into it. I learned this the hard way a long time ago when I first started planning too. Like, without having some base knowledge of what a vendor is going to cost, or anything, a venue cost, what catering costs, any particular element, you are going to have to do some research. There is some great resources online that makes that a little bit easier. I myself have another resource for that as part of my process too. But yeah, I think having just a little bit of knowledge of that, and then you can even, like, my resource kind of delves into, like, here are the typical percentages of a budget that goes into the things, and also here are the typical costs. Now, I have to take a sidestep here and disclaim that these numbers vary by location incredibly.
Right, of course.
So I'm speaking from Southern California, as does my resource. So I just want everybody to know that. I know you're kind of, your your audience is kind of national. So I don't want to overlook that. But anyway.
But I think that's a lot of places. If vendors are traveling 3 hours from their home base, then it is going to cost more,
Yeah,
So.
absolutely. Absolutely. So once you have kind of like a base knowledge, then you go back to your priorities and you really determine, like, okay, if a priority is to have your memories and all of your hard work captured, which it is for many, many couples, prioritize photography, videography, any sort of documentation of their big day, then you don't want to, like, not dedicate the money to that person, right? Like, if that's a priority of yours, then you know that you can look for a photographer that really is aligned with what the work that you want reflected. And then you can kind of, like, that you're going to spend that money. And then something else, perhaps this is just throwing, things at you, but let's say invitations aren't as important to somebody, then you can kind of take money from there. So again, it all comes full circle into your priorities and what's important to you and what isn't.
Yeah. And I think that's also when people get started, getting a wedding planner that kind of can help you find those things, right? Because I've worked with a lot of couples and we've come in and they don't have a planner and it's all over the place. And I always tell people, I feel like every time I work a wedding with that didn't have any kind of coordination, which is rare nowadays, but when I do, I'm like, there's no way this wedding costs more than it would have if they had just found somebody who could figure this out. Like,
yeah, it's kind of ironic, and my heart goes out to couples because I know, like, the price of things, it adds up so quickly. Like, I really. I understand if people cannot work with professionals, like, in this capacity, as a full-on planner, especially, is a big investment to make, often a worthy one and a worthwhile one, but I don't want to just overlook that the costs add up so fast. And so,
sure.
but the people that are able to hire at least a day of coordinator, it can all, that person is kind of like the glue to everything that you've like brought together, and it makes a huge difference. I think especially for your stress levels, your enjoyment of your own wedding that day, I think it's really.
Well, and also just saving you all the time with that research. Like, I mean, wedding planners, I mean, like yourself, you can tell pretty much if somebody's like, I'm interested in something like this, you can pretty much off the top of your head be like, well, here's roughly what that's going to cost. You know what I mean? Like, I've done this before. I know you don't have, I save you the Google research. I'm just telling you,
Yeah. And that's what I was mentioning. I actually have a resource for my couples that like it's my step 1 is basically the casting your vision, knowing your priorities. Step 2 is crafting the budget. And that's when my resource kind of fills in those blanks for people.
So talk to me a little bit about these resources. So when you do your planning, is this kind of part of like your planning package, or is this just something you offer, like, even if they don't book you as their planner, is this something they can get or like buy from you to like have these resources, or talk to me a little bit about it?
Yeah, I would love to. And thank you for actually asking that question, because I'm actually developing like a virtual planner, and it's the exact process that I work with my couples. And my heart really does go out to everybody, and the cost of living and the cost of everything. So I'm trying to make working with a wedding planner much more accessible. So I am developing this virtual planning system. I will have an option. It has all of my resources that I give my couples. It has a full-on checklist that's a little bit overwhelming, honestly, when you look at it, but also
sure.
It makes sure that nothing gets overlooked. And it tracks your budget. It kind of it's like a collaborative tool. It does a ton of stuff. So my goal is to have it launched next month. I don't know when this is going out, but May 2024. But yeah, so my vision is to have one thing where I will offer like a community type of thing, and we'll also do Q&A calls, so that if there is a situation that isn't covered like in the virtual planner itself, then you'll have an opportunity to submit your questions, and then I can approach your specific challenge or question personally. So
I love that. Yeah. Let me know when it's being launched. I mean, we'd love to promote it that sounds great. I wish I had something like that when I was planning. We made our own checklist, and the checklist kept changing every month because we forgot things. Like, it was not right, Yeah.
I mean, honestly, that's how I've approached everything from the very beginning. It's like what I would have wanted, and what I see time and time again from my clients. Like, I just, everybody gets so stressed. And I understand it. It's this big daunting task, and nobody has planned a wedding until you've planned a wedding. So just trying to bring in some more joy and ease to the planning part of people's weddings.
I like that. I think that's a big thing that a lot of people forget about, especially, because like you said, planning a wedding is stressful, but it doesn't have to be. I mean, I loved my wedding, and even the planning, as stressful as it was at times, like, I kind of miss it, because there were times I was like, this is fun. We get to be creative and plan this awesome party. So I think having something, anything people can use to kind of take away that stress, or at least organize it,
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And everybody's brains work differently. Like, there are people like you that really enjoy the planning, and they kind of, thrive in a little bit of chaos. And honestly,
I'm rare. Not many people like that.
Well, probably a lot of the planners that you talk to, that's kind of like our superpowers, staying calm and collected in the middle of chaos, and problem solving, and, thinking clearly when shit hits the fan. I don't know if we're allowed.
It's okay. There's really there's no hard, fast rules here, But yeah, I think that's great. And please let me know when that's all out, because I'd love to, promote that on here, and also on our socials and whatnot, because I think that's a great resource for people to have. So yeah, great.
I will.
So let's get into some kind of wedding specific stuff. So just stuff that we, can talk about here. So, how obviously weddings, I've only been doing really weddings for about 5 years now. So I'm relatively new to that. I was mostly working in corporate stuff and whatnot prior to that. But even in those 5 years, maybe because of social media, I've seen a lot of things change. Things that were happening a lot now aren't happening. So in your experience, from when you've started weddings till now, what are some of the trends you've seen that have really gone a different direction? Either things we used to do that now we're not, or things we never did, but now we're doing all the time.
Good question. I think I'll start kind of generalizing.
Sure.
I think when I first started, the traditional wedding aspects, it was just like, it was almost like here's A, B, and C, and you must do this regardless of how you feel about it. Like
Sure.
all the wedding events within a reception, like, all the things. It was just like you had to have the guest favors, and you had to have the proper settings, and all the little details were just like didn't even give it a thought. Like your customization of that was simply which colors or which like specific details of that one thing, whereas now what I love the most about this time right now is that people are kind of like, I don't like that. Like, that doesn't mean anything for me. It doesn't do anything to celebrate my relationship. I don't want it. We're not doing it, and I think what's resulting is these really beautiful celebrations that really reflects the couples. Like, I mean, I again, not to be repetitive, but to come full circle back to the priorities and knowing what what a successful wedding means to you. It's all about your big picture, and like, you're there to celebrate the commitment to one another. And like, I feel like people are honing into that and really making it important. And I love that right now.
Yeah. And I think you segued perfectly into one of my other questions I like to ask, which is, because of that, we see a lot of interesting things at weddings that are very unique to those people, like you said. So is there anything that sticks out in your mind as like one of the most unique things you've seen a couple do that was just very them that you've never really seen again? That you're like, this was awesome,
Yes. Well, I always love experiences. So,
Sure.
I mean, I love the wedding that I met you at, and you and your wife, did the performance and the dueling pianos. Like, I love that experience. Like,
with the rain, right? Wasn't it raining?
Yes.
It was cool.
Yes.
It was awesome. They were fun.
It was an amazing experience, and I loved it. I think you guys it really made such a memorable wedding, and I think that not only the couple but the guests walked away from that like they're not going to forget that, so I loved that. There was another wedding that did the experience of having an aerialist she showed up with her own rig. It was like, I don't know, 20 feet tall. It was on the grass, and she just performed a set during cocktail hour for like, I think she had 2 20-minute sets where she was just, up in the air.
That's amazing.
Doing like tricks and stuff, and people could get their drinks and just kind of gathered around and watched her. And it was just a very unique, and the bride herself had trained to do that. She did not get onto the rig. She considered doing it for a minute, but she didn't. But that's how, like, would
be, be careful.
Yeah. I was like, please do it. And also,
don't hurt yourself. Yeah.
So yeah, I think those two, it's really the experiences you create for your guests. Those are always the most memorable.
I love that. Yeah. I got married up in, have you ever been to Reptacular Animals Ranch up in Silmar?
No, but I need to.
It's just as wild as it sounds. It's like they've got camels and all this stuff. And I was just like, we had like the beer burro with like the donkey bringing you beer. And I was like, this stuff's awesome. People still, and I saw on Instagram just yesterday that there was a couple that got married in Texas during the eclipse. I don't know if you saw this, but it was like their vows, like the I do's were like right when it was like full totality. And I was like, that planning was next level. I was like, that is cool.
Wow.
Like,
yes.
I was like,
really
that's the coolest thing I've ever seen.
And also, I think I just got like a tiny bit stressed about like sticking that timeline as you're speaking.
Yeah.
Holy
that's the first thing anybody who's like a bride or groom is like, oh my God, that looks cool. Anybody who's ever planned weddings or knows like what goes into them, you're like, oh man, there's no room for error. You get one shot at that.
Yeah, absolutely. Props to them. What a great idea. But again, like, unforgettable, like these
Right.
moments and um I think it's so cool that like in this day and age with all the resources that we have available to us, like people really like everyday couples can craft things like this. And that's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the benefit of social media and whatnot, is you can get all these ideas and you've got the Pinterest board and all that stuff. So my wife was on there all the time. Oh, this is so cool. This is so cool. This is so cool. And it was before we got a planner. So I kind of had to be the one who was like, well, can't do it all. We got to focus a little bit here. This wedding's going to be 7 different genres, so,
Yes.
but it was such a fun journey. So, opposite edge of that sword, what's the cringiest thing you've ever seen? What's like the horror story? Everybody's got one. I've got many, but I'm curious what pops into your head is like oh, this was
Yeah.
cringy. This didn't work. Or,
You know what? I'm fortunate. I'm so fortunate to work with so many amazing couples. Like I've gotten so lucky that
yeah,
the cringeworthy things are minimal. And I love that. But I will say like what I cringe at is like the Venmo and Zelle like gift placards on each guest table. I don't know if you've seen that.
oh, I've never seen this. They do like a Venmo us on each table.
Yes. Yes. And listen, again,
Mm,
I understand all the costs add up and I understand like I'm not
right.
opposed to the registry being like a honey fund or like all the
Yeah.
different there's so many different things now. Um like I understand that. Like especially in modern day when couples probably live together already and they have like a home set up and it's
Yeah.
times are changing. So the money like registry doesn't bother me. But if you're looking to monetize your wedding that much, I feel like there's other ways to do it. Like at the end of your wedding,
Right.
if you want more money in your pocket at the end of it, I would suggest instead of having those signs on the table or wherever all over your reception asking people to pay you, I would instead just say whittle down your guest list, like make it smaller, save money that way, really spoil and be generous to a smaller amount of people if you can, um,
Hmm.
and let them enjoy the day. And I think that you would find that you would end up with more money that way than you will inviting just like everybody under the moon, hoping that they're all gonna gift you with something. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I've never seen that before. I don't think that would be, I think people would be like, that's interesting. Especially since a lot of people come to a wedding already with a card that usually has cash if they didn't do a gift or anything. So they've already got that. And they're like, well, you know what I mean? I don't know. That does seem a little
Yes.
strange to me. I,
Yeah. I think
yeah,
that's, I mean, I'm hoping that it doesn't happen all that often. But if anybody's considering that, that is my 2 cents on it. Like find,
sure.
even if you can't whittle the guest count down, take away guest favorite, do something else that will end up with
Yeah.
money. Just kind of reframe the whole money in your pocket idea into another idea than asking everybody for money in that way.
And this kind of brings up something that I think is interesting because I've talked to a few people about this. And I want to hear your take on it. Speaking of, people coming to your wedding and whatnot, what's your take on like managing your guest list? Because I know a lot of brides and grooms, they kind of have this thing where, especially if mom or dad is paying for the wedding and suddenly you find yourself at this wedding where you only know 60% of the guests there. So what's your kind of take on managing your guest list and being okay with saying, we're not inviting that person or you're not getting a +1 or whatever that is? Like, what's your kind of take on that?
Yeah. So there's so many different scenarios. It's hard to like generalize,
Right.
but like, if I would say if your parents are contributing to your wedding, then I think it's really important from the very start to have really clear, open communication with them and just being like,
Yeah.
you know, obviously, hopefully being grateful for the gift that they're giving you. And also just saying, what is your expectation with this money? Like, are there certain guests that you're going to ask me to invite? Like just knowing what the expectation is up front And then really, if it's not okay with your vision, then you're going to have a hard conversation. And the sooner you
Right.
have it, the better. But I think that there has to be a little give and take if you are being, having your wedding contributed to. Like
Sure.
I can't personally, like, my values don't let me sit here and be like, oh, your parents can pay, but they have no say in anything. Like,
Right. Yeah.
that doesn't
Yeah.
sit right with me. It could with somebody else, and that's totally fine. My thing is, like, I think that there's a little give and take, and you can allow, a certain amount of guests, but then also say, this is my vision, this is what I want, this is what's important to us, and then really just holding that boundary throughout your planning.
Yeah. And what about even if you are playing for the wedding yourself? Because I've had to have conversations with brides who I can tell are stressed out because, and it's a weird world we live in where people who are invited to weddings sometimes just feel entitled already. And they're like, wait, you don't want my new boyfriend to come? You don't want my new girlfriend to come? And it's like, no, I don't want to pay $100 for them to come eat. I don't know. It's like, I don't know. Like, what's your kind of take on that? Like, I think, yeah, I've talked to a lot of brides who get stressed when their guest list is 30 people higher because they've done plus ones for people, and
Yeah.
people are bringing the date of the week. I don't know.
Yeah. And I think that that's just, I know, I don't ever think that's like people trying to take granted the situation
Sure.
or like maliciousness. I think it's honestly people, like, guests just don't know. Like I said earlier, you don't know what it means to plan a wedding until you've planned a
Right.
wedding. Like, you don't know how the costs add up, how quickly they add up. So I think to those brides that are self-funding, or even if they're not, but they're trying to limit, again, the clear communication straight out of the gate. Like, if
Yeah.
I recommend doing this on a website. I'm actually currently helping a bride with the verbiage
Yeah.
on her website to say, like, they have a big guest list, but they're maxed out at their venue, and she has a
Sure.
lot of other extended friends and family. So I just actually worked with her to kind of craft the right verbiage to basically be like, please RSVP promptly, because there's people waiting, and we would like all of our extended family who wants to be there to be able to be part of the celebration. So we crafted it a lot better than that, but that's the idea.
Yeah. We're really popular, so get in first come, first serve.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I always ask that to people because we had that issue, and we set a rule of no plus ones, and we were hard on it. I mean, even like I think like some of our immediate family, we were like, no. Like, because like my sister, for example, like it's like we said no plus ones. It was like she would have just brought a friend or something, and it's like we just come. You know everybody. You don't need to bring somebody. What am I? Why am I paying for that? Like, no.
Yeah.
It's so much money per person. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And
I think, I really encourage people in that, especially in that case, when the guest is somebody who does know everybody, who has friends and family there, like, there's no need for it. And I think just like that open communication, setting the boundaries up front, and sticking to them and being consistent with them. So like, you can't say yes to one person and say no to another. Like, your consistency has to be there. You have to know within yourself and like know your boundary and just stick to it. You can do it with kindness. You can do everything with kindness.
Exactly. Yeah, it's how it is. You just got to be nice and open with each other. Well, okay. Well, we're coming close to the end here. So before we wrap it up, is there anything else you kind of want to mention, talk about, anything about your business, your company, your life, anything that we did not cover that you can think of that you want people to know?
Well, okay. I'll say that this is coming to mind.
Okay.
I am not good at social media. If you go on my account, I think I have like 11 posts. So
so bad.
But I think part of my resistance is the fact, like, it's so funny. I have thousands of client photos, like thousands. I have the full galleries, and it would be so easy, like, in theory, for me just to post them and put a small little caption or not and just be done with it. I think my resistance comes where I'm really trying to provide value to people, like like, I really want people's planning to be fun and to be much less stressful. So this is an invitation to listeners to, like, come find me on social. DM me, ask me a question, like give me, what is your
Yeah.
challenges? Like, let me know your challenges. Let me know your questions. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know ideas of what would make it more fun. And I would love to create resources like through my social media to respond to that. I feel like that would be way more fun for me and way more fun for everybody to be able to learn from social media in this way. So that's a very random ask.
No, I love it. I love it. And so you're like me. I'm horrible at posting, but if you DM me, I'll probably see it and respond. I can communicate. I just can't post.
Yes.
I don't have time. And now I always laugh because now they got TikTok, which is, I'm still getting used to like Instagram and Facebook where, and now TikTok's like, you got to be like Martin Scorsese and make a short film every time. And like, I can't do this.
I'm honestly not even on TikTok. That's how bad my resistance is. I'm not.
I can't do it. It's too much for me. But yeah, you heard it here. Hop into Erin's DMs. Just say hi. Great. Well, listen, last thing I wanted to say just before we wrap it up is I think there's no awards on this podcast, but I do think you get a best background award if we did have one. I don't know where you are, but it's like, I sit at this ugly orange wall. Everybody else is in like an office, but I love the, like, where are you right now? Are you in like looks like you're in like a garden almost.
I'm at home. I live in a very small home with my 2 boys and my husband. And so when I'm creating with the community, I do some videos and stuff. Sure. So this is what I'm in the corner of my bedroom, and I've just created it to give it the vibe that I'm wanting to create for everything I put into the world.
Well, it looks great. So I just wanted to give you a shout out for that background because, I think you win. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll talk later, and we'll link to all your social medias and everything. And please let me know when that virtual thing is done. I want to make sure everybody knows where to find that because I think that's super cool. And thank you for doing this and being here and being awesome and helping people out. And you know what? We'll talk soon. You have a great rest of your day. All right.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Shawn.
All right. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Okay. Bye.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Eventful Endeavors, Secrets to Crafting the Perfect Celebration. We hope to have left you with some actionable ideas for your own event. If you like the show, please subscribe and definitely leave us a review. We read every comment. So until next time, happy planning and see you soon on Eventful Endeavors.